At this point in the workshop, participants used the tools learnt during the workshop to address a stated problem and develop recommendations. The recommendations were tailored to the particular circumstances and requirements of a chosen country within the CARIFORUM region.
Our question really had to do with the public sector and how a Council for Innovation and Competitiveness could assist in removing public sector bottlenecks to innovation and competitiveness. And you can read the details of it. So we're saying that now some of this is covered here, but we're just trying to get a little more specific. Where to raise awareness of competitiveness and innovation, we're saying that the CCI should really find a way to actively engage the actors to understand their role, as opposed to just blanket awareness of innovation. As you meet with people, try and work out with them where they fit in the system and what they're supposed to do within the system. In so doing, it should report monthly directly to the minister, who should be charged with unsticking bottlenecks caused in other ministries by this is a top-down approach, by speaking to his ministerial colleagues. Okay? And here we're saying that the culture of the public service, this is directly related to the mandate, we need to look at ways to get the public servants to understand that their activities should be results driven and not get caught up in the process. And we're suggesting that the Ministry of Public Administration in Trinidad, which is charged with transformation, etc., should be engaged to look at that, to facilitate a more flexible and innovative public service. So we're trying to focus, I mean, if we list the problems, we go on and on and on, we're trying to focus on some solutions. So the CCI has staffing issues. So we mentioned it was set up in 2011. At present, I think there's an executive director and 2 interns. So clearly you're not going to do a lot to double non-energy exports and move in rankings in 3 years if that's all you have. And the executive director was acting, or probably still is. So we're saying that we need to rethink, and this came up yesterday, we need to rethink how the CCI is structured, and we've listed 4 options. Do nothing, that is maintain the status quo. Set it up as a state enterprise, which we're not really in favor of, because we have more state enterprises than any other country in the world, just as we have the largest cabinet in the world. We could have a hybrid, where you place it as an advisory body under a state enterprise, which would lessen your bureaucracy. Part of the reason it doesn't have staffing is because it has to go through the ministry's hiring process, through the PS and so on, which is very tough. So this is a possible option. If the government doesn't want to give up control of it, you could probably put it under a state enterprise and have it report through that. And then the 4th, which is the one we really recommend, is have a public-private partnership where BSO, such as the Chamber of Commerce, is executing the activities. There's an agreement of activities that should be executed. The government funds a significant part of it. The chamber or whoever else puts something in the game, both in cash and in kind, and is responsible for the outcomes. So that's our view on structure and funding, which came up yesterday. So we have 10 specific recommendations. They are: the CCI needs to find some issues which are short-term in nature and which they can deliver on to build its credibility. That will help to insulate it from political changes if people believe that it is doing something useful, if stakeholders believe that it's doing something useful. Bear in mind we have an election in 2015. We have to identify key sectors for data collection within 24 months and produce some results. So in addition to the CCI, we have an Economic Development Board, which is supposed to be the think tank for what Keith was talking about yesterday, which is really foresighting and long-term planning of the economy. So working with the EDB, the Economic Development Board, we select the sectors for future growth, and we're suggesting that we aim to set at least 1 or 2 priority sectors, real priority sectors, as opposed to just saying ICT or maritime or creative industries as we've been doing by Q2 2014. Identify targets, timelines, and strategies for increasing R&D investment. Collaborate with InvestTT. This goes back to the point I made at the beginning with the good news. How do we increase the investment in R&D? The CCI must act as the driver, or must be empowered to and see its role as the driver of the innovation system, and therefore we're suggesting that it drive, update, and monitor the actions and activities of actors in the innovation system, and prepare an annual report during the budget debate, or for the budget debate, so that the country is aware of what is happening. It will also put pressure on the different actors, we hope, to work. But of course, this requires the first link where the CCI meets regularly with the minister drives through his ministerial colleagues, and where the CCI meets with the various actors in the system, and we understand our role in what they're trying to do. This one is just the identification of companies, and remember my point yesterday about picking winners. While you do the developmental things, in the short term, you identify those companies which have immediate potential for export-led growth, and you work with them to maximize that export growth potential. There's a state agency that is identified for that, Export TT, and of course the private sector directly, BSOs and the firms, and try and get them to export more. Let's work with academia to develop strategies to attract more cutting-edge researchers. I don't know if my information is correct, but my understanding is that when Singapore wanted to develop its biomedical and biotech programs, what it did is brought in some of the top PhDs in the world, and then had students study with them to be able to develop that capacity locally. And also to find out who's doing cutting-edge research. People like John Agard are doing research on the green economy that no one else is doing in the world, and I mean, we should support that kind of work. We're also suggesting a facilitatory tool, which is an open IT platform for people to discuss what's happening. So each ministry, each department can talk about, the private sector can talk about what they're doing specific to this innovation policy and process, and we can have some level of discussion there. And then supported by each ministry identifying an innovation champion, not just on paper, and not just to say we now have, how many ministries do we have, 22 or 3? 23 innovation champions, no. But they meet quarterly with the CCI and actors as necessary. And they discuss where they are, the main challenges, the main opportunities, things that should happen. You have some kind of consensus, people feel that they're part of the process, and we can move forward like that. We know it's not the be-all and end-all, but we think these are 10 very specific and concrete things that are worthy at least of consideration as we move forward. So, I have 2 more minutes left, so I'm just going to play for you the music. Thank you very much.